You're very welcome to this week's The Big Question. And Kate and I have a full packed programme ready for you. I am delighted to introduce our very own Maria Tivenin. And when you say, why do you say our very own Maria Tivenin? I say our very own Maria Tivenin because Maria is actually a graduate of NUIG Galway. And back in, oh dear, it's a long time ago. It is a very long time ago. But we won't, will we say how long ago it is? We possibly will. Anyway, Maria was actually the auditor of DramSoc in 2002, 2003. And I actually only started my job in 2001. So Maria was like the first DramSoc auditor that I actually got to know. So a very special place in my heart. And she was wonderful, and I remember many of her fabulous shows in NUI Galway. I loved them. But she got involved and performed in The Crucible, I believe in about 2006, was it? No, 2000 and what? 2001. Before you came to the auditor, I wasn't even in NUI Galway. She got involved in The Crucible. And during that, she met then a young man called Rob McFeely. And I think that the romance and the rest of the story is rivals any of Shakespeare's beautiful romances. And Tarantino wouldn't touch it like a barge pole because it doesn't have blood, guts, gore, and tragedy. It is beautiful. So Maria is now the artistic director of Fragoli Theatre, and I have a beautiful little video to play.
Fragoli was formed in 2007, and it's called Fragoli after a 19th century Italian actor who was the world's most famous impersonator, Leopold Fragoli. And at the time, we were into the kind of character changes, and we still are. Elements of that is still seen in our work. It's also a delusion or a psychological disorder called the Fragoli delusion, where you think everybody in the room is the one person playing many parts. So it's just that idea that feeds into our work. I suppose for me, when I think of Fragoli, because I've been with Fragoli since 2007, it means a lot of things. Sometimes it's hardship and it's long hours and it's really bad sandwiches you've got from a place that's about to close, and because you need to do a tech and you have to really drink some hot sugary tea and you're just tired and you really hope this show can work. Other times it's just absolute joy and pride and laughter about the situations you end up in, how we end up in a farm in Meath in a shed doing a preview of a play, how you are in Edinburgh. We went there twice in 2008. It was crazy. We did 2 plays, let's bring 2. We did The Maids and Tape. A lot of it is, in one word, it's connection. It's connection with the people I work with, connection with that work and connection with audiences. And it never, ever fails to be exciting and exhilarating when you put work in front of an audience, even an audience of 1 or 2, which we've all faced in different parts of our career. It's about that connection.
Trouble if I drag you down.
Guys. Good stuff. Okay.
No, you're not alone. I'm gonna make this place your home.
No, that was gorgeous. Absolutely lovely. Lovely memories there, and lots of old friends, seeing everybody, and I see Oisin there was featured. That was gorgeous. So it is now that time of the day when when you are going to take to the your soapbox, and you are going to tell us all about your topic for today.
Okay.
And so the big question for today, and the big question is an important question, and the big question today is, has or will COVID-19 kill theatre?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, a big question, and I suppose, well, I think nearly everyone knows me, but I'm coming to this question as an independent theatre maker, so a person who's the director of an independent theatre company, and also as a mother of two small children, which I think is significant here because I'm interested in this. All of my thinking and reading and listening about this is done in snatches of time. So I think that's an important factor as well. Approximately 2.5 million people have missed out on what you would describe as a cultural event since the start of COVID, which is a loss of 20 million to the sector, and 27,000 people are employed, but I don't think that figure is accurate. I think that's who's on the books, and it doesn't really take in the nature of this kind of work and the haphazard nature and how that multiplies in festivals and things like that. So that's the cost of it. And I suppose I don't know why I started there, but that's where a lot of the conversation is now, and how can we save theatre, and how can we bring it back, and why should we? And I suppose we'll go from the start, because I think when COVID started, it's been a very strange experience, because we change and it changes really quickly from day to day. So as artists do at the start of this pandemic, everybody was responding. So the internet was flooded with, free performances and videos and online work. And that's the way an artist is. You want to respond, you want to share. You're in this game to share a story in whatever shape or format that might be. And that want and need to connect with people, I think, is what created all of that. And you had no choice but to go digital with your performance, which isn't ideal, and there's lots of complexities around that. There's some interesting figures that now they're UK. So 20% in May, 20% of all adults in the UK accessed online performances, and a fifth of those people, it was their first time. Now, when I say performance, it was music, theatre and dance. And the National Theatre, who has released a production a week since the start of this, has had 10 million people watch those shows. So just to put that in perspective, that would be if their 3 spaces were filled to capacity for 11 years. Now, they are going to cease with their online content on July the 16th, so they have 5 shows left. And I guess then what they'll do is they'll move into this other realm, which I think we all have to do, where the art isn't there for free. And I suppose for me, the word that keeps coming up when I think about theatre and COVID-19 and all of this is value. So I think the online content is fantastic in terms of its accessibility. Geography doesn't really matter, and it's for free, and it's encouraging people. But it is a different thing. And I suppose the flip side of that would be if theatre and artists aren't invested in or nourished, theatre will become an activity for the elite. If you have a venue that can only play to reduce capacity, and there's all these rules and regulations, both the companies that are in those venues and the people that will come and see them will be the elite, the companies that aren't independent, who are struggling as well, but and the bigger venues. And there's a lot out there. I'm not going to go into what's better than, the NCFA has a 13-point plan to the government, which is great if you want to have a look at that, and it's done very clearly. And they have a hashtag Save the Arts campaign. Theatre Forum put out an audience survey, which I sent around to everybody. My issue with that is that it was very venue focused, and a lot of the conversation has been around venues and around money. And I think sometimes and you do it to yourself. So theatre becomes about the product, and that's the way of thinking in the world today. And there's an artist there, there's a theatre professional. And I heard a phrase today, it was on Today with Sarah McInerney on RT Radio 1, didn't catch the name of the guy because again I was competing with screaming in the other room from my son, and artists trying to operate under this cloud of uncertainty. I just thought that was a great phrase, because people approach things differently. So I went, you know, and anyone in Fergoli, we were gung ho. What do we do? How can we do this? How can we keep alive? What can we put out there? And that's neither right or wrong. But then there's somebody, you know, maybe there's people who don't want to, can't, and for everybody that cloud is there. And I think it'll only be pushed away, or we can only peek through it if we have the public support. So I think what could kill theatre is if no one cares but theatre people, you know. And I guess, I think when you look at what are the positives of this, and I'm not underplaying the grief and the complexities and the sadness and the confusion at all about you know, that comes with everything in this pandemic, but the positives, I suppose, are one, maybe time and space, because artists want to work. They're always working. They're doing bits and drabs and bittings here, there, and everywhere, and their time plans are all over the place. So that couldn't happen. So finally, some breathing space. Now, there's too much, maybe, but it's there. And then that idea of evaluating. What is it we do? What is theatre now? What is it going to become? How are we going to keep this alive? And there's been a great coming together of the theatre community, nationally and internationally. I'll be part of a group, the theatre, independent theatre and dance artists, and there's been 2 meetings of that on Zoom. There's 203 participants for the first meeting. You know, but that never happened. There's a lot of very Dublin-centric stuff, and suddenly it's like, well, we're making art here in Kerry and Galway and Limerick and Clare and Mayo and Roscommon, imagine. You know, so that connectivity is happening. And also people are also looking to talk to the public, to raise the public awareness, to get that out there. And you know, it's like everything, we don't know what we have till it's gone. And the whole social distancing, and just, I thought Vinton O'Toole is a really good controversially titled article as well, called COVID-19 is like the Taliban, it detests arts, or something like that. But he said there's, you know, he was saying that idea of hunger for collective experience, and I feel that's out there. And what theatre can do, like how we can make sense of ourselves in the world, and that's why we need it. And Michael D has a great letter to the EU as well. I know I'm hopping and jumping everywhere here, but there's a line in it, and it's supposedly from Jean Monnet. They don't really know, but if I were starting again, I would start with culture. And I think this is giving us the opportunity to start again, but we need help with that. And it'll have to come from, it's like everything out there, hopefully we can start so many things again. But the danger is if we let go of theatre, if we let it slip.
So let's, Marie, you have 2 minutes now.
Okay. Artists are resilient. They want to work, but this is a different place. We're multi-skills. We can do lots of things, but it's different mediums we need. Investment and nourishment and people to care about theatre is what we need. And to discuss that idea of value of the artist and what's going to happen, I don't know, outdoor work, solo shows, and the length of performances, they're going to have to be shorter, live, and what's live, and all those questions. But I suppose I don't think it will kill theatre. We cannot let it, and theatre is going to be different, but it can become something else, and that still provides that connection and tells that story.
Maria, that was impassioned and fantastic. The good news now is that the format that the big question takes is that we actually break you into smaller groups. So we're going to, well, and yes, and I definitely think a definite round of applause is deserved for that. Thank you. So we're going to break into 2 groups. When you get into the room, you need to find somebody who's going to moderate your room for you. That means they check out to see who everybody is, and they make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk. You're going to somebody who is going to jot down a few notes, what you have, so you can feed back to the group. And then you're going to have one person who will have 60 seconds, 1 minute, to feed back the response from the room. And then Maria, as our guest, will have a final reply to that, and then we will vote on whether or not COVID-19 will kill theatre. Back. How amazing.
Great.
So we had room number 1 and we had room number 2. So I suppose if we get a bit of feedback from the 2 rooms, and then Maria can have her closing thoughts, and then we will all vote again on whether or not we go into Cool Theatre. So we have Marianne, are you number 1?
Oh yeah, room
Lovely.
number 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about a lot of different things, but the big things that came back were it's going to change how we do theatre. You know, how else do we tell stories? Things like the Dublin Fringe are going ahead with the lighter programme, but we're going ahead nonetheless. Something that came up strongly in our group was the Irish language, with Barry, Erin and myself all have an interest in it, and Galway 2020 being a big year with the Oireachtas going to happen in Galway, and they support playwrights. But then we were talking about the other things that are happening in Irish, which are not happening online actually at the moment. There's not as much presence online for Irish language work outside of music. So it was just interesting to kind of think that there's drive-in dramas being proposed by Phoebe, and there's different kinds of ways of making stuff now being proposed in the Gaeltacht. But the other thing was like the long-lasting damage to the arts sector that all of this will have. The longer this goes on, the more the fabric is eroded. Online performances are great. You know, someone mentioned that they had watched more musicals for free in their home than they could ever have afforded to see. You're talking about figures for one show with Fergoli of 4,000 people. You know, those are kind of brilliant and very positive things. But how, you know, it's art to people in their homes, but then how can that kind of art can no longer be made though? Like that 4,000, that may have had a brilliant audience, but that's the end of making that kind of work. Can't make it it doesn't make it, it can't be made. So it'll fundamentally change what gets made as well. So yeah, very interesting.
Thank you very much. And I think, is Mike, you're there? Are you going to give the feedback from the other room? I would like to spotlight you there now.
So our group was, I'm sure we're all kind of thinking similar things. So I'll go through kind of the way we went through in order. So like I personally only had a point at the start. I think this has been a really good thing, instead apart from all the people that have died and all the racism and stuff, and that we've all had a chance to put the brakes on a little bit and just take a step back and reassess. That's probably a bit more important for organizations and things that had always wanted to catch up. You know, artists, I suppose, are always creating, so they don't necessarily maybe need as much of a chance to catch up. But I'm sure artists have had time to maybe, you know, create their websites or look back. I know Roisin is kind of trying to interrogate down to the very sentence of like, what is her practice, and has had time to kind of do all that, you know. So I've also said I've met people I would have never met before, you know. I think, and you see the show figures kind of attest to that, you know, you're having tens of millions of people going to shows in the National that, you know, they wouldn't have otherwise. There were 2 points raised about accessibility, in the sense, on one hand, that it's great that we all have this access to things, but that it could also have a different effect where we could be losing accessibility to theatre. So for various different reasons, you know, people not having good computers, maybe, you know, something I kind of keep thinking about now is, how are people, you know, with any kind of visual impairment going to be accessing all this online content, you know, because I don't think audio description or captioning or anything like that is kind of caught up yet. And Tara had a point about, you know, if companies are putting shows on in fields, you know, I mean, that's pretty difficult. And if you ever tried to roll a wheelchair through a grass field, that's not easy. So, you know, there's kind of pros and cons to that. There's also fear that we're going to lose the live element, you know, so all this recorded stuff is great, and even this is great. I know Marianne as well both feel very strongly about being in a room with people and kind of having the chat and hearing, you know, voices and hugging and all that kind of stuff as well. So losing the live element in general is a big kind of fear. And then Rena had some points about that, the theatre has been very resilient over the ages, and you know, it has survived through famines and flus and even Auschwitz, which I was not aware that there was theatre in Auschwitz, but that's a pretty serious point. If you can survive, theatre can survive in there, it shows it could possibly survive anywhere. But yeah, we're all likely going to have to learn new skills, I think, which we all are. I suppose hope is that, you wouldn't be held back by technology, that you could learn the skills, and it's going to be cheap. You're not going to need, it's not going to be another way of kind of creating an elite level where if you don't have a fancy iMac, you're not going to be able to do X, Y, Z, and then I kind of like to wrap up with the note we've made at a good few meetings about how just after the kind of 1919 flu and everything in Broadway, half of the seats that currently exist today were built after all of that. So there did seem to be, after that big pandemic, a huge appetite and thirst for live entertainment. So hopefully we're all good. I do always say that was a time before Netflix and lots of other things like that. And this leads me to, I also wonder if there will ever be a Netflix for theatre. And if that will become a way to pay artists for theatre, much like Spotify or any of those kind of things, SoundCloud, will theatre shows have to move to an online platform?
So a last feedback before we make a vote on whether or not COVID-19 will kill theatre.
Okay, sorry, just trying to process all that. I don't think it will. It will certainly change it. But if it's not invested in now, we will lose the experience and we'll lose the artists, because I think the hunger for it will be there in 1, 2, 3 years, and yeah, I've been thinking of that, what Mike said as well, like, there's a responsibility in the national broadcaster. There could be a television channel for live performance, Anyway, that's not theatre, but we'll do what we can. Brilliant. So I don't think so.
We will all say yes or no. It's as easy as that. So can I say something? Lord, I do not have ability to say stuff. So, let me see, what have we got? No, never, never, no, we won't let it. Oh yeah, absolutely. And a big heart from Oisin, which I presume means no. So I'll stop sharing, and I will now say officially that according to the big question, it may try, and it may push us to the very edges of our being, but COVID-19 will not, in fact, kill theatre. And I'm very happy to hear that. So, to prove the COVID-19, and it did try, we're going to pop Oisin into the spotlight. And, well, actually, we'll pop Kate is in the spotlight. And Kate is going to introduce our next guest.
So we're going to see a little piece from Oisin Robbins from I Want You to Know Me, Bergoli's production, written and directed by Maria Tivnan. So Oisin is a Dramsoc alum, if I'm correct. As Rena said, Oisin, you were the treasurer of Dramsoc for a period. Would that be right?
Yes, I was. Short and sweet, thankfully for everyone.
Everyone else is frozen. I think it's probably me. So yeah, Oisin is going to put forward for us his monologue from, a portion of his monologue for I Want You to Know Me, which was in aid of Safe Ireland, premiered on the 17th of May. If you would like to donate to Safe Ireland, we'll put the number in the number to text to in the chat at the end of this.
Tell us about what you're about to do and then take it away. This is live theatre coming to us today. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it feels good, doesn't it?
It feels just great, really good.
It's few and far between these occasions. It's like, oh yes, I get attention again.
You're in the spotlight.
Exactly. Good, brilliant. Mike, have I found the light yet? Have I found it?
So we'll mute everybody else.
Great. I was also, I feel like I need to note as well, in Dramsoc, I was also the productions officer. I had much more success as productions officer than I did as a treasurer. But look, we learn from our experiences, don't we? So yeah, they were magnificent years, my time in Dramsoc, and it's a pleasure to read a bit of theatre again as part of the SocsBox. So I'm reading, as Kate had introduced, I Want You to Know Me, which was written by Maria Tivnan, and I had the opportunity to perform it for the Safe Ireland campaign. So yeah, I'll just read a little section. Hello. Right. This is a bit mad, a bit hard. Well, it's very hard actually, but I want to do it. I want you to know this. I want you to know me. So I'm just going to start, because if I don't, I won't. I used to have these pajamas when I was 4 that had little motorbikes all over them, top and bottoms. They were grey, and the motorbikes were all different colours: green, yellow, red, blue, and black. And they were soft, but ribbed around the wrists and waist. I remember all of this because I loved them, and, well, I also looked at them a lot. It's funny how adults forget that children can hear and know things, that they can feel things, like really feel, acutely feel even. And when I think about those little motorbikes, I feel like I'm 4 again. I'm lost and afraid. Lost in that dark, in that room. And I can hear him again, and his low, deep rumble that would rise and explode into a roar. And then, or sometimes her soft pleas and silence again for a bit. And I would rub the end of my sleeve between my finger and thumb over and over and dream about my motorbike, my black motorbike, zooming over desert roads with my little dog in a special attachment behind. In my head, he was a bit like Snowy from Tintin, but cooler, less of a wuss. Sammy, I called him, and away we would go on the bike, away from the room, from the walls, from it all, until I would hear her light, quick footsteps on the stairs. And I'd know she would look in on me, a quick glance through the door. And I'd pretend to be asleep. I knew she wanted me to be asleep, so I gave her that. I gave her that because I was too small to give her anything else. And in the morning, it was mostly okay again. I'd run down and she'd have the cornflakes ready for me in my blue bowl, and he'd either be gone or still in bed. And we wouldn't say a word. We just munch the cornflakes and smile at each other. And I'd pretend not to notice how tired she looked or how thin her arms were. And she'd rub my head and say, "My best boy." And my heart would burst for her. And all I'd do was smile. My father, the big, handsome man I hated and adored. Sometimes he'd lift me, swoop me up in his big arms and throw me into the air. And I'd love it, the thrill of it, even though there was always the slightest unease to it. Like, even as a small lad, I knew well there was something wrong. But I'd want to please him, so I'd say, again. And he'd buy me everything. Lego, trucks, Subbuteo, runners, Nike, Adidas, the works. The worse the roars, the more I got. And everyone loved him. Oh, he was the life and soul, the man for the pints, the banter, the crack. And we'll leave it at there. That's the first part of the reading there, of Maria's I Want You to Know Me.
That was Absolutely beautiful. I just need to do my little round of applause. In fact, if we put on our microphone, our things, we can actually give Oisín a round of applause.
Thank you very much, folks. That was really nice to do. Thank
And
you.
if anybody wanted to watch the entire show, where would they find it, Oisín?
They would find it on the Fergoli Facebook page, the Fergoli Instagram, and Fergoli has a residency with Roscommon Art Centre. It's available there. Is that right, Maria?
Yeah, I can put up a link now if you want.
That would be wonderful. And it was for a great cause. What was the cause again, Oisín?
Well, Maria had written, it's a really sensitively treated piece. Yeah, it's about domestic violence. It's as the kind of the start of that suggests, it's about abusive relationships, how children who you might suspect wouldn't hear anything, they usually do. You know, we had spoken about a lot. Children, they know, they hear, just because we don't think they do. They really, really do. They're really sensitive, intelligent humans, and the trauma that their adults are living through, that child can carry that trauma as well. But I mean, like, those were Maria's words. Maybe Maria, if you want to say something about that topic as well. It's a really powerful and really relevant topic. I mean, like, it's in Ireland, it's around the world, and it was good for us to do a piece about that with Safe Ireland to draw attention to something. So yeah, it was really, really powerful, good project to be a part of.
I'll pop Maria back into the spotlight there for a second. Oisín, that was superb, by the way, and I really, really enjoyed it. I was just actually, when we were saying that you were coming, I was remembering Marty Moncrief and Beluga Theatre last summer as part of our drama festival, and the lovely afternoon we had with all the staff children when Marty came out, and they got to get him to sign autographs and meet him up close and personal. It was very special.
It was great. It was the best day of his life.
I'd say so, yeah.
So far.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah. So lots more of all of this. There you go. You're in the spotlight, Maria. Sure, just give us a little bit of a, what was the motivation?
Fergoli have a residency in Roscommon Art Centre, and our theme is finding home. Before all this started, so part of it was, I suppose, home can be a sanctuary or a prison, a safe or an unsafe place. So just with the 25% increase in domestic violence nationally, again, I thought, well, we have a medium here and we can use it to our advantage. And because it was Roscommon based, they don't have a shelter in Roscommon, but they do have a branch of Safe Ireland's around 32 centres, so they operate in Roscommon as well and nationally. So I thought that was a great organisation to get in touch with, and yeah, and they were on RT Radio 1 then the next day, and sure, Glenn Hansard did a really great concert for them in the library. And yeah, look, it was just using a medium in a way that we thought we could help. And yeah, and I suppose I have a social work background, so that did help. I think if you looked at it, it goes on, Oisín, you know, well, he's the child of that situation, but he's an adult now. And I think sometimes hearing that that from a male voice can have a big impact, actually, positively on that sort of issue.
Thank you. Before I hand over to Kate to wrap up, and I just want to say, does anybody have anything they would like to say? Anybody have anything? I'm just going to put you on gallery view there.
I was just going to say, I hope my children will give me that pretending to be asleep thing the odd time. I just love that image of a child being able to give that to a parent. 'Tis not often they do it.
No.
Anybody else? Just if you want to say anything, unmute yourself, and before we hand this over to Kate.
Done, guys. Great.
Yeah, thanks a million.
So just in general, as a format, how did people enjoy today?
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
It was great.
Next week we have Brendan Smith coming in to decide whether or not it is time to work with nature. So that will be a very interesting chat. So over to you, Kate. I'll put you back into the...
Carol's just put into the chat there. Maria, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, just sorry, and I'm a devil. Our last piece for this of the online thing that's for free anyway, is coming out at the end of the month. And Tara, who was on the call, wrote it. So it's her first piece, and it's called it's called Inside You Stay. So it'll be out on the 23rd of June. It's news to you now, Oisín, as well.
Yes, that is going to be up on your Facebook page and etc. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Great.
Just keep an eye out. Thank you.
An exclusive announcement.
And what date again did you say that was going to be on?
Yeah, the company don't know that yet. 23rd of June. I'll tell them now.
Yeah, it's the whole world knows now. Lovely. Okay, so Kate, you can. I don't have no. Oh, there we go. Spotlight, Kate. There you go.
Great, thanks.
Now, don't you
Rena.
mention it.
So yeah, that was very, very interesting. I actually wish I was in the breakout rooms because I would love to have heard more about what everybody thinks about. God, I miss being in college and talking about theatre all the time. But yeah, so thank you everybody for coming along, and a big thank you to Maria and Oisín for participating with us today and being our guests. You did a fantastic job, so thank you. And yeah, it was lovely to hear your monologue, Oisín. I must go watch the whole show now. I didn't get to watch it before, so I'd love to go and see the whole thing. And to Mike and Rena, thank you for helping with the moderating this, and particularly Mike for all your technical support. Thank you so much. And then to everybody for just joining in. It was great to see your faces and talk to people about theatre. I know there's lots of discussions going on right now, but I think sometimes it can feel a little bit daunting to go into those, big discussions with people that you might feel know a little bit more about this area or whatever. But this was nice to, talk to the people who are really, I suppose at the, I don't want to say front lines of theatre, but you know what I mean, the people really, really doing it. So this was great. So thank you, everybody. Rena, have I forgotten anything at all?
Absolutely not. I have one interesting little image to share with you very quickly before we hand over to the wonderful people in Common Gaelic. This is, I'm sure you've seen this already. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
That is the theatre in Berlin, 700-seater theatre that took out 500 of its seats. So it can socially distance. So yeah, there's loads of stuff out there to watch, and I think that hopefully it will whet the appetite of people to go to actual theatre. And I think Mike had a very interesting statistic about Broadway. Was it Broadway, Mike? About after the yeah.
It is, yeah. So more than 50% of the Broadway seats that currently exist were built after the flu in 1918 and the strikes in 1919. So there's a big appetite for live entertainment, and I think there definitely is, because you can see how hard everyone is working to make sure that it is going to be there. Nobody has just said, fair enough, right, we'll let it go. So yeah, I'm not worried. That's one thing I'd say. My only fear would be that we might lose some of the people who are just stepping into it.
Yeah.
And that is something really worth kind of keeping, I think. But once you've been in for a while and you're bitten by the bug, you're not going anywhere. I think the audiences will always love it, but I'd be very worried about our recent graduates and kind of companies that have just started.
Well, yeah, I might respond to Mike there. I'm currently looking at masters in theatre, and I'm kind of wondering, should I hold off another year, or should I apply now? Or no, it's scary. It's scary, but I don't think it would ever not be scary. So I mean, what's different,
don't
really?
Hold off. If you know what you want to do, just go.
Yeah.
So next we will be going to our chill room with Uncommon Gaelic and Barry, who I believe has prepared a quiz. So if anybody would like to stay for that, you're more than welcome.
Fabulous! Yes.
No pressure either way, but Barry has prepared a Galway themed quiz.
Yeah, Galway,
Gaeilge?
NUIG, Gaeilge quiz. It's not all Australia, so if anyone's scared about that,
Let's get.
don't worry about that.
And do join us again. We're here every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. NUIGalway.ie/SocsBox Live with a different show every day. So do pop in.
But I just want to say, Barry, I really appreciate your Pringles collection that I can now see at the corner of your camera.
Thank you.
Oh my
that's
God.
amazing.
They're all empty, which I don't know is better or worse, but yeah, that's up there.
I suppose,
my
how
collection.
did they get empty is the question.
Someone ate them. It wasn't me.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Mike, that was very well noticed. Well done.
Yeah.